Hello, welcome back. Today's film is Canon flavoured. Very, very interesting. We've got the imminent launch of the brand new R5 and R6, and we've got the incredibly well-spec'd C300 Mark III. Look at the toys I have in front of me. Truly magnificent. I also have in the corner Barry Griffin from Canon. Hello, Barry.
Hello, how are we today?
I am good. Thank you for visiting us. Great to see you. How did you came through the woods? How did you get here?
I got in the car luckily and the motorway was as clear as, so I had a nice smooth drive over, so it was a pleasure.
And thank you for bringing this smorgasbord of delights. Canon delights, it has to be said. We have the brand new C300 Mark III.
We do.
Hot off the press.
Yep.
Is it shipping yet?
It is shipping. First customers have already started to receive theirs, so yes.
Good. And we're going to have a chat about this, chat about everything, chat about things we probably shouldn't chat about, but we're just going to have a chat. First of all, this is an exciting camera for you guys. You've had the Mark I, the Mark II. Tell us about the Mark III.
Well, the Mark III is the next step on the C300 kind of heresy as it goes along. So with this camera now, we've gone to the next stage of technology with a brand new sensor. We're going to next resolutions, going with 4K, but being able to go a high frame rate with that. And of course, we're evolving and developing the autofocus as well. So with everything that the camera can do, it is the next stage of cinema camera.
Fantastic. Modular.
Yes.
I say that because I've got a lot of modules sitting in front of me.
Yep.
Obviously we've got the body,
Yep.
the main body, and then what's this? Tell me what this is.
This is extension pack 2. So with this camera, if you need to add on any extra functions, any extra connections, the extension pack 2 will add those on. It gives 2 extra XLR inputs, so you have 4 XLR inputs if need be. It gives you gen lock, it gives you more SDI outs, and it also gives you a V-lock plate on the back, as you'll see there, with some D-taps out if you want to run a longer batteries.
Okay, and it strikes me that this particular camera, the shape, the ergonomics, there's sort of 2 ways to run it. There's either what I would say, the kind of, you'd have a grip here and you'd hold it in maybe into your body.
Yep.
And then you'd have potentially a viewfinder here,
Yes.
your
Yeah,
EVF,
optional EVF,
your
yep.
sort of cheaper one there, like that. And then there'd be the more traditional kind of ENG style on the shoulder. Yep. But then I kind of need that because I'm going to obviously build it up into a rig.
Exactly. So it's, as you said, it's a modular design. It's very much down to what the needs of the shoot is. Having a small camera that can be put onto a gimbal simply enough, or a handheld, as you said, as a run and gun solution for documentary style shooting, and then putting the extension pack 2 on if you're going to a more broadcast solution or more cinematic film production solution. You can put that on for balance, but also for the extra outputs that you need in the more flexible control.
Yeah, because I often, like if you're shooting in a car or somewhere confined, I have like a cine saddle or something like that on my chest, and then you're absolutely right, you just have that kind of very, very low profile kind of rig, in there, which would work. But there is a time and a place where you actually want it up here.
Yes.
Especially with bigger glass.
Most definitely.
To get that balance point and to move things backwards and forwards.
Most certainly.
We have got so many toys. This is brilliant. We've got your very sexy EVF.
Yeah, the V70. Yes.
I love it. Obviously, the slight I fly in the ointment is it's quite pricey, but I think it answers the problem. Which what we need to do is get the price down a little, because it really, I think that is almost an essential purchase if you want an EVF, because otherwise you're looking at a Zacuto or something else.
Most certainly.
To do that.
So with that one there, you're right, the EVF V70, it's become really, really popular with the cinema range now since we brought out the C500 Mark II, but also with the C300 Mark III. The price has come down a little bit, so that's the great thing. The more popular it is, the more units that go out, you'll actually see this the price come down over time. So it's a fantastic EVF for the control of ability of it, as well as the quality of the optics inside.
Well, what I like about it is kind of almost in a similar vein to Arri. You've got camera control on it, so if you have it rigged here, you don't have to go to the body. You've actually got your hot buttons here and on this side, so you have it's a control unit as well as an EVF.
That's what important, and it's customizable.
Yeah, which is brilliant. So that's the mounting kit.
Well, that's that's an ARRI
ARRI
mounting
one.
plate that we have there for that.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do have our own solution for it as well, but we
Yeah.
find that the ARRI one has been quite popular.
Now, I'm just going to quickly run through a few
for it.
things on the table because otherwise everyone will say, what are these black items, these black bits of kit? So this little bad boy here,
That's extension unit 1. So if you don't require all the outputs that the extension unit 2 requires,
Yeah.
if you're looking for something smaller that gives you Ethernet and gives you Genlock out, that's what extension unit 1 will offer.
and that would just pop on there.
Basically just mounts onto the back. You take the back plate off and you just screw that into place.
It takes all of 30
I
seconds.
like this modularity. I like that. So you can, as you say, you've got the little EVF that could go there. You've got this that could go there. You've got the second bit there.
Correct.
That's the handle,
That's the grip, yeah.
which again has function buttons, but is not necessary to run the camera. You don't have to have it.
No, you don't have to have it on there, as you can see, because you have the record button and you actually have a dial on the body. But if you need the grip and you need the dial and you want the record function there, you have that there as well.
I'm instantly thinking if I want that down the end of my bars here,
Yep.
I can get an extension cable.
Yes, there is an extension cable available there for that, yes.
Okay, so that's that. We then also have a PL mount,
Yes.
and you're going to tell me, hopefully, that it's just 4 screws.
That's exactly it. This is a user changeable mount. So it comes standard with the EF mount, and then you have 2 options of a PL mount that you just quickly change over. It takes all of 30 to 60 seconds, and you can get an EF lock mount if you're using large Cine.
EF glass.
And so if I'm in a clean space, obviously not on a windy beach,
Yes.
because nobody would do that on a windy
I
beach.
don't think so. They'd
Well,
want
then
to
you'd
do
be surprised. There's sand on my sensor. In a clean, dry space, 10 minutes.
Not even 10
Not
minutes,
even-
a couple of minutes. It
that's
literally
brilliant.
is. And in the box, you can actually get some shims in there as well. So
Yeah.
if you actually need to balance it off and push it out a bit, you have everything in there. But when I do a quick demonstration of doing it, it takes me literally 60 seconds.
See, I remember back to the bad old days. It used to have to go back. Camera used to have to go back to Elstree or go back to
Yeah.
your service centre to do that.
Correct.
So it's really good
It is.
to have that there.
Almost certainly. It's
now,
a
brilliant
thing a lot of people are excited about.
monitor.
Monitor that comes standard in the box. So
No.
that's a touchscreen monitor
Yeah.
for touch focusing.
So I can touch focus with the AF with the
Yeah.
DAF, and obviously I've got a chart. I mean, like people do mount it here,
Yes.
but equally you could mount it here. You could find different solutions.
You can find different solutions to do that. With the solution that comes out of the box, it will be to the front and to the left
Yep.
for you to interact with when you're doing it. But of course, you can actually have it sitting on the top.
Yep.
With the arm that comes in our box, it gives you 2 positions, on top of the camera or to the side of it.
This is a really nerdy thing to say, but when I played with this previously, what I liked about it was that even with the one that came in the box,
Yeah.
I was able to turn it and it went flat like
Yes,
that.
yes.
And I know that's really nerdy, but it meant it fits in a smaller bag.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
and it's little things like that speed you up because you then don't have to disassemble everything
That's it.
when you're going.
Pack it away quickly
When
and
you're
easy.
going different
That's
way.
exactly it.
Now we've got obviously these larger batteries.
Yes, the BPA B60.
Yeah. Brilliant. And what's the runtime on those? do you think?
So approximately something like that with the C300, you'll get around an hour and a half to up close to 2 hours. I think we say around an hour 50.
Okay, well that's great. Now we've also got 2 aftermarket specialities here, which I've pulled in because I think they're quite exciting. The
Yeah,
first
definitely.
one is a really dinky Hawkwood V-lock adapter. And what
Yes.
excites me about this is A, it's tiny, but B, it will just go in here like so on this, and it still allows me to run one of those.
Exactly.
So in theory, I can have a baby V-lock on there. I can hot swap power because I've got 2 sources for main body, and I've got a DTAP for my transmitter or my follow focus or whatever on there. So that allows you to run a really small build. I think that's an essential little.
I think it's a great little accessory. This is the thing. You can see that third-party manufacturers make some great accessories to do different things or get the camera built in different ways depending on what you need.
Yeah, and then over here, and we're gonna show it assembled later. We've actually got the brand new cage from Bright Tangerine. Now, as you can tell, with one little finger, it doesn't weigh anything.
It is light. When you had me holding it a little earlier
Yeah.
on, testing it out, I was impressed with the weight.
It's the weight. I mean, particularly what I like is the ability to change the balance point on top, so you can slide this backwards and forwards. I think that's fantastic. So depending on your glass, you haven't just got the option down. You've got option in two areas, which makes a huge difference.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I like it.
and I'm very clumsy, so I like having bits on the side for when I knock my camera over. Keeps it in one piece. Going back to the camera.
Yes.
What media do we run in here?
So it runs on 2CF Express cards. They're the newer cards that are out. They're high speed because, as we know, the camera does 4K Cinema Raw Lite. So because it's doing internal RAW, you want fast and large media, but it's the speed that's important. Yes. But also, as you can see there, it does have an SD card slot as well, because that's for your proxy.
Now, you need a CF card in there, though, to run the SD, don't you?
Yes, you can't just record on on that by itself. It is a proxy.
That's an important distinction. So you do have to have a CF card in there in order to run. I'm all for proxies internally. Yeah. It's belt and braces. It's safety. Yeah. I mean, mercifully, I'm going to touch some wood. Mercifully, cards tend to fail very rarely. Yes, but just to have that is extremely useful.
Really useful.
It can get you out of a jam. Or it helps you just in speed of turnaround. If you're doing, as you say, if you're doing RAW, but you need those low-res proxies to do a very quick edit, you can always go backwards and forwards.
No, most definitely. It's a kind of standard thing these days, and Canon have been doing it for a while, putting the SD card in there. It's all now behind just one door for easy access.
That's fantastic. I mean, that is grand. Internal RAW.
Yes.
Talk to me about data rates.
So with this camera, you're talking about 2.1 gigabits of information with the Cinema Raw Lite. The great thing about it is, while that's still quite big, it's very manageable. If you have a decent Mac or PC, it runs on all the NLE programs that are out there.
I was going to say, because you've got plugins, haven't you?
We do have plugins for Avid, but if you're using Final Cut, or if you're using Adobe, if you're using Resolve, they all will work natively with Cinema Raw Lite. So it's very easy to work with and gives so much latitude.
I was going to say, you get the maximum dynamic range.
Yes.
You can, I mean, we're hoping we could expose things reasonably well.
Yes, it's still very important to expose correctly.
Very important to expose correctly. I mean, RAW is, I have to stress, RAW is not this magic, I'm not going to bother setting correct exposure. It's just allowing you to put your look on it and to really work that material.
It allows you to do that.
But you've also got a fantastic 4K 10-bit.
We do. So in here you've got XF AVC, and you have that in 422 10-bit, which is just great. And it's in All-I and also in Long GOP.
Okay, so data rate wise, you can choose.
Yes, you can choose from your All-I versions from 810, 410 down to 160 megabits, depending if you're shooting in long.
Because you see, to me, we've almost ended up with some new, by default, by accident, across many manufacturers. That seems to be a sort of new standard. You know, RAW is on one side of the tracks, and everyone has different interpretations of that. But if we're brutally honest, for 99% of what we shoot, to get out the door, to make a living, 422 10-bit is where we want to be 4K. We're still probably mastering, we're still probably sending out 1080 most of the time.
Yes.
Do most people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, obviously it's nice to be able to give 4K, but I can certainly vouch for the fact that when I'm editing, even if I'm doing 1080, I want 4K 10-bit. Because it just allows me that flexibility. I can push in. It's just sort of become that standard, if you like. I mean, perhaps that's what held the C200 back a bit, because I mean, we all know it was 8-bit. It was a very nice 8-bit.
Yes, that's Canon 8-bit, as we always say. It's a magic 8-bit.
It was very good, but that's almost turned into a pure RAW camera at a lower budget.
At a lower budget, it's been very popular, that camera as well. These RAW codec, or these compressed, I don't like nobody likes using the word compressed RAW, but these RAW codecs that are coming out internally in cameras are getting more and more popular, because it's just allowing smaller productions to have a lot more play in post-production to deliver something that looks top quality.
And your AF works in RAW?
Yes, it does.
So just to make it clear, because some manufacturers, some things work, some things don't.
All works.
And then I've got to mention slow motion.
Yes.
And I've got to mention something that excited me and pleased me, which was a single button push to change.
Correct.
What that means for me in a day-to-day environment is I could be shooting 25 frames narrative. I suddenly would like to do some 4K 120. It's one button. And then I want to go back to 25. It's one button. And that's how people use cameras. We don't normally have the luxury of stopping and starting and changing. Do you know what I mean?
Understand. Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's not just the fact it's there. Again, I think 4K 120 has become a standard, or is becoming.
It is becoming a standard now. Yeah, most definitely it's a want.
But it's having that switch.
Yeah, it's the ease of use.
Yes, ease of use. I mean, if I'm honest, I'd even take 4K 100 or 4K 75. Do you know what I mean? Because still 3 times
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what I mean?
You have that flexibility.
You have that flexibility, but it's to have that built in is great.
It is, and that goes from 12 frames per second up to the 120 frames per second, depending if you're shooting 30 or 60 and you go on it. But that's feedback from the industry, and Canon are good at listening as you see models coming out and picking up on certain things, and that was one of the things a lot of people fed back. It was quick access to slow and fast motion.
I've got to ask you a quick thing about feedback, if I may. Have people mentioned the fact we've only got one video output?
That has been fed back,
and
of course.
I only say that
because we have those two. So this is where with the V70, the popularity of it, people have said would love to be able to use the V70 and the monitor at the same time.
Yes.
So we have like anything. We gather that information back. We feed it back through. It goes back to Canon Inc. in Japan. We just wait to see if they can say that it can be done or it's something they're looking at. It's the form factor of the camera at the moment with size to keep it small, but we'll wait and see. We fed it back and we'll see if anything can be done for that.
Sure. I mean, I'll be clear here. There is never going to be a perfect camera.
No such thing.
All cameras are a work in progress. Okay, there will always be a newer one later, but you can only deal with where you are.
Exactly, and it's always down to the person who's using it as well. One person says this is my perfect camera, and another person says this is their perfect camera. So you try to meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely, and then we look at the lens range. What have I missed? NDs.
So it does have NDs up to 10 stops. Air NDs are actually proper filters that come down. They're kind of manufactured filters, very much.
And it's just a push button on the side.
It is just a push button, and they will drop down 2, 4, 6, and then you can expand to 8 and 10, where it brings in 2 plates.
It puts two together.
Yeah, it puts 2 together.
And color shift is pretty good, pretty controlled.
It's very controlled because they're Canon optic
NDs, so you're not going to see any color throw.
It's not like a cheap circular polarizer that you buy off the internet.
No, nothing like that. This is done properly, so you're keeping that Canon look that you'd expect from the camera. Very much so. But other things, if you don't mind me interjecting and jumping in, but it is about the sensor in this camera as well.
Yes, well, you've done a thing that supposedly Arri have done, which is this wide dynamic gain, the
dual gain output that we have.
Exactly.
It's not the same as Arri's, but it's in a similar, if you want to say parallels maybe, as some people talk about it. But the dual gain output on this is allowing us to push the HDR, the dynamic range, up a little bit more, where we can state at the moment from our testing that we can get 16 stops and start to nudge over 16 stops of dynamic range. And it's down to the way the sensor works. So it's about it does dual gain, so it's working out 2 amplifications, one in the high saturation area from the same sensor, so there's no dual sensors or dual 2 things going on, and then it will go down and look at the noise levels. So it will push it out, join the 2 images together at sensor level before it goes to the processor, and then delivers a picture that will give you a higher dynamic range.
That sounds like a truly beautiful thing.
Yes.
We'll have a little test in the woods in a minute. We'll shoot something very poorly, I'm sure, because we'll be in a hurry. But is that all frame rates, or I'm guessing that's very processor intensive?
It is processor intensive, so it goes up to 60p. When you go to the slower fast frame rate, the DGO switches off.
Okay.
But it does go 4K 60 at that.
Okay, but that's still great to have that. And as you say, that's an interesting approach. It's a different approach.
Well, it's a development. The people are asking more and more about dynamic range. It's one of the key things, especially in the cinema and in the movie world. And if you can bring a camera out, when you talk about the price point where this is sitting, and now we're able to offer this feature and a higher dynamic range in a camera like this, it's quite exciting.
That is very exciting. Power draw. Because I guess it's quite. Does it draw more? For instance,
it does draw a bit more power. I've forgotten off the top of my head what it is,
but
probably
more than the C500 maybe.
The C500 Mark II and this would be the same. But the original C500, yes, that's why you get the BPA 60 as standard in there because of the higher power draw.
I mean, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
No,
you know. And let's be honest, batteries are getting more and more efficient.
Yes.
Better and better.
Yes.
And everything's relative. You know,
Most
I
definitely.
had some older cameras from manufacturers I won't mention that used to rinse batteries.
Yes.
We are still in a better place than we were a few years ago.
That's exactly it.
It strikes me as also, talk about AF.
Yeah.
I have to say, the Sony FX9 and the C500 and the C300, we are reaching a point where you and Sony have got professional AF kind of nailed. And that's a big thing to say.
I've been saying that for over a year. With
I
Canon.
know, and I had a C100 as well,
Yeah.
and the AF was good on that. But how this has moved forward, how much better it is. You can now go out and say, no, I can really face track, I can really shoot on this, and it will actually work. And I can touch screen if I want to pull. I can change the speed and sensitivity, and it's actually changing the lenses that we put on the front.
Yeah.
Because suddenly you're thinking, oh, actually, no, I do actually want the AF.
Exactly. As a single camera operator, couldn't you think of anything better than you can just concentrate on the lighting, the framing, what's happening with the subject you're shooting at, if that's a person or something else, and the AF is something that you don't have to worry about as much going forward.
I mean, no one's expecting 100% because even a focus puller wouldn't be 100%.
Yes.
But if you can get in the high 90s a percentage and you feel and also you learn it. Any camera, you know, when you first get it out of the box, you know, you try things. You actually got to program your function buttons. You've got to adjust your sensitivities, and you've got to test a little bit so that you kind of get dialed into it as well.
Most definitely.
I think
they are assistant functions. Remember that they're not going to change your world. They're there to assist you in getting the shot done.
It does change my world because I'm getting old. I'm becoming blind.
With your broken glass.
Do forgive. This is yet another victim of lockdown.
The good thing about it as well, though, with our dual pixel autofocus that we have in here, if you don't want to use AF and you want to manually focus, you still have the focus guide.
You've got the green arrows.
Exactly. So when we're talking about peaking has been a savior for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But when you're doing tight work or you want to frame on a face and you want to make sure that you're not if you're using very fast glass and you don't want to not miss the eye, you can put the box in the eye and focus pull yourself, and it will tell you exactly when you're in focus. So that's a strong tool for people who want to still manually focus.
It really is. Now let's just touch on audio.
Sure.
Because people often don't, and I think audio is a very important bit of the whole package. As standard, you have two around the back here.
Yeah, two XLRs, one 3.5, and Scratch.
Okay, and Scratch as well. Now, obviously, you can change your levels and do your line and your mic all down there.
Yes.
So you've got two. If I was to add this, that would give me another two.
Exactly, and you get the controls on that as well for the two other XLRs.
Yeah. So for an operator's perspective on my shoulder, I kind of need that.
Yeah.
Because then I've got my levels on that side.
On that side, yes.
Yeah. So I do.
If you're working on that way, that's where the controls would be.
Yeah. So that's kind of how that works, and that would give me 4 channels.
4 channels.
4 channels. And can I double them up like have a safety? So can I run, I don't know, 1 and 3, have 1 at one level and 3 the same?
Yes, you can. Yes, yeah. You can
Just as a kind of belt and braces.
No, you can. You have independent control for each level that you have.
Okay. Well, that's grand.
That's really good.
It is. It's a very complete system. It's really interesting. We talked about RAW. I mean, it's a busy week for you.
Yes.
Something's coming down the line, isn't it?
Yes.
It's been it's been announced. We know it's an R6, R5. Do you see those cameras as potentially a B camera to this? What's their positioning?
Well,
not being able to talk about exactly what's happening on Thursday, but we've made the development announcement for the EOS R5.
Yeah.
And of course, with the R5 in the mirrorless world, we've heavily talked about its video functionality. Now, they won't be the same as a cinema camera. So when we're talking about what it can do, if it does 8K, as we've stated, and it does 4K, and all these wonderful things, it doesn't have all the flexibility and functionality that you'll find in a cinema camera. So they are different. You have to think about the limitations on it. They'll be great as a B camera, C camera, for smaller kind of productions, or somebody wanting to use a smaller camera. But if you wanted to build it up to make it like a cinema camera, you have a lot of stuff to get around it, and it starts getting chunky, as you know, when you're doing that.
But I guess it would be a natural. I mean, let's say you owned one of these, and you wanted a single-handed gimbal, a very small one.
Yes.
My argument has been with these cameras, all of them, is that by the time you've added that and that, and a few bits, I don't really want to put it on a big. I've got to have a big gimbal.
Yes, you do.
To move it. We're at the point now where kind of it's almost more economic because of the speed on a production to say over there in the corner is my little light camera on a single-handed gimbal, and that does that job, and then my A cam stays rigged. And it's faster. It's just when the director changes his mind, or her mind, and then wants to do something, you can chop and change instantly. So we'll have similar color in the R5 or 6.
Look, a Canon color is generally the same, but you do have to remember as well, it's a still sensor versus a cinema sensor. So they're not exactly lined up, but because you're going to have log in there, you can actually work in post to pull them back together, and not much work to get them close together.
Yeah, and it's been trailed. Obviously, Premiere did an update that kind of announced what was coming, because Premiere updated for that camera, so we kind of know we know that it's got raw in there. I think 8K is interesting.
Yes.
I'm personally not completely fixated on more Ks. Good 4K is really okay at 6, but I think it's good to have. I think, as like you say, it's going to be working out where the sweet spot is
Exactly.
in any of these cameras
Exactly.
as to how it works. Very interesting. Where will people go?
Well, it's going to be interesting where people go. Like it's a statement. The 8K that we announced it with the development announcement is a statement. Like it's there, but I can see people wanting to use the oversampling on that. I'm
Yes.
not going to say everybody's going to go 8K,
Yeah.
but it just kind of shows that where the technology is moving,
Yeah.
and people want to see technology moving. And as you said earlier on, we were talking about it over the last 10 years. Certain brands have kind of shot up and other brands have just stepped through. We are now at the next stage, really. We're in the next decade. Things are expected to be more developed. So that's where.
I mean, also, I have to say, you can throw a tool at me. Canon. If I was to look back in the past, people accused you of pulling your punches on some of your kit. Feature stripping, or just not ticking the boxes. It does appear to me with the R5, and this, that you're coming out swinging. This is like, right, we're going to give you everything now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We actually want to get that market share, and we want to actually build that ecosystem.
Yes. Well, when you're looking at it, when you're developing new technology, it doesn't just happen overnight. It's a development plan, and that can take some years to do. So as Canon were going over the last decade, if you want to say, because the 5D Mark II is the thing that changed the world.
Had two of them many
Exactly,
years ago.
yeah, that changed the world, and it's down to where things were going after that. So the development plan was put into place, but when you're making a brand new ecosystem like the EOS R system, the mirrorless system, with the lenses and all the rest, there's a development plan and how that's going to work, because it's a long-term plan. This is for the next 30 years for Canon, like EF was.
Yeah. So it's not like on the internet where they say, "Where's my camera now?"
Yeah, exactly. You don't just switch a switch and some engineer says, "Oh, let's just throw this together." Canon could have thrown some stuff together, and it probably wouldn't have worked. But they said, step back, let's do it properly. Even with these cinema cameras, it's the same thing. We've stepped back. You can see the evolution from the original C300 to where we are now. As that evolution, we've only been in cinema EOS for not even 10 years. It was 2011.
You're making me feel old.
I know, 2011.
It seems further back.
It does, because it's the heritage of Canon because of 2008 with the 5D Mark II. But 2011 was when we launched Cinema EOS. And look where we are now.
We haven't aged.
No, look at us. Growing a beard, but that's really it.
I need a haircut.
Grey.
I need a haircut. Last question before perhaps we go into the woods and assemble and have a little play. There's been some talk, and I get the R5, and I'm excited about that. Why hasn't that got an RF mount option? Or is it even possible with the flange depth? It might not be.
Well, with Cinema EOS, when you're looking at that, it's with the heritage of our EF glass that we have out there from our C&E lenses and there's all those primes and all the rest. And you have to keep on developing that. It's not to say that the RF mount at some stage in the future will move that way, but we have to work on what we currently have.
Yes.
And with the development, they've stayed with the EF mount, and it is flange distance. The RF is 20 mil, these are 40 mil, so there's a difference there.
There is,
but
yeah.
it is down to having it built with this. With the EF mount, because of the heritage of the glass that we have out there.
I mean, having said that, I'm more excited about having PL option.
Yeah.
Because this is a cinema camera, like you say.
Exactly, yes.
And PL is an industry standard.
Exactly.
And there's a zillion lenses that are PL.
Exactly.
And it's a great mount. So yes, I'm more excited to have that. But brilliant. Well, thank you for that. It gives me definitely gives us all a look into what this camera can do.
stuff.
We are now going to assemble this briefly into a sort of not a crash cam, but a working of something, and then we're going to go into the woods and scare some wombles, shoot a little bit of test footage, and then we'll come back and have a wrap up. See you soon. We're back. Yes, we've been out in the woods, Barry.
We certainly have.
How was it for you?
It was wonderful. I'm so pleased you were able to take such nice footage of me.
That is a lie that I will carry with me forever. And we basically chased a dog around a wood just briefly. It was beginning to rain, so we weren't out for very long. But we did learn things, and we shall share some of those things with you now. First of all, look. I built something, my precious. Look what I built. Just to show you that all the bits on the table earlier We weren't lying. It's a middling weight, but the cage is great. Do you like the cage?
I do like the cage. Most definitely. It's light. It's well built.
Yeah.
Does a good job.
Fits around it really nicely. Side handle straight on here. At the back we've got the Hawkwood adapter with the killer dual power feeds.
That's really nice.
It's really nice. You can hop swap, and you've got that D-tap for that accessory. It's just a really nice way. And then my new favourite EVF. Can I have one, please, Santa?
Won you over on that. Always do. Always do.
They're so overlooked. You know, I think they're as important as the camera. I really do. I know you've got a very smart ARRI connecting bit here, but what I like about it, particularly when you're picking the thing up and using it, is actually I've got the camera control here. So it's not just, and I'm in tight, and I can actually alter my focus points. I can do all of that, and that becomes an integral part of how you actually hold and move part of the camera. Not money wasted, I have to say. It's really important. Most definitely. We talked a bit about LUTs when we were out there.
Yes.
So anything you'd like to sort of say?
Yeah, sure. So with the LUTs, you do have a direct LUT button. You can load up your own LUTs on this. It does have pre-installed LUTs all the way from 709 down to ASUS, HLG. It has all those preset in the camera. But if you want to load your own LUT for viewing, you can do that. And then, of course, in post-production, if you're shooting in log, you can add the LUT in post-production yourself.
I would just say about the AF, it tracked you very nicely. If we lost, we sometimes had to pop the glasses off occasionally.
Yes.
And with the dog, I must just say, we were actually in what I would call a narrative AF.
Yes.
Which was -3. We deliberately slowed it down. Responsiveness, we just left alone.
Yes.
If we're doing it again with a fast-moving dog, you just whack it up, responsiveness and speed.
So you adjust depending on the shoot that you've got it set for. That's the beauty of it in one sense, that you can adjust it because you want a certain look from the AF as well, more cinematic down to more practical.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, it's really useful. I learn a lot when you build a camera up like this and you actually see, because you're never going to use them straight out of the box. I mean, any camera, it doesn't matter what it is. If you're going to be using this on a job, you always want to add the bits.
Yeah.
I call it to productionize whatever camera it is. And it's lovely to see it rig like that.
It looks pretty good that way, doesn't it? People walking around with like something like that, you look like you know what you're doing.
Well, and that is half the aim. Exactly. Well, thank you for coming in.
Absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
In a very short space of time, lots of things being announced. Will you visit us again?
I would love to visit you again. Yes, most definitely.
So hopefully we'll see you again when we can talk more freely about the things that are coming. But thank you very much. We've learnt a lot about the C300. Is it the perfect camera? No, of course it's not, because there's no such thing. But it certainly is a really strong entry into the sort of 10 grand field for broadcast and production.